When I set up my fortune-telling stall, a woman drew a most auspicious fortune slip. She was overjoyed, thinking good things were coming her way. But I took the slip, looked at her, and said, "You're going to die soon, you don't have much time left, because when a spirit slip bleeds, someone will surely perish." On Lunar New Year's Day, people flocked to the temple to offer incense, an endless stream of devotees. The eyes of those around me darted over, assuming I was there to poach customers from the temple. But I paid no mind, quietly unfurling a large golden cloth onto the ground. On the cloth, written in bold strokes like dragons soaring and phoenixes dancing, was a prominent announcement. Destined individuals may draw a slip, 100 yuan per draw. If incorrect, a 1,000-fold refund. Immediately, a crowd gathered, looking at me as if I were a joke. Several men began to chatter. "So mysterious, a Daoist master dares to open a stall right at the temple gates. Hey master, aren't you in the wrong place? Master, what makes someone destined? What if you're wrong, will you really pay 1,000 times back? Do I look like a destined person? Good heavens, if she's wrong just once, won't she lose 100,000 yuan? Are Daoist masters that rich these days?" I responded calmly and confidently. "If I'm wrong, I will, of course, pay. Among you all, who can flip a coin 3 times in a row with all 3 landing heads up, that person is my destined one." Everyone scrambled to flip coins. But strangely, the coins seemed cursed. Every single one landed tails up. The crowd grumbled in disappointment, lamenting their bad luck. At this moment, a woman carrying an LV bag approached. She stood before my stall for a long time before finally asking, "Is this fortune-telling of yours really accurate?" I didn't mind her wording, calmly replying, "If you want to know if it's accurate, why not try it once?" Seemingly encouraged by my words, she casually placed her LV bag on the ground, picked up a coin, carefully tossed it 3 times, and all 3 landed heads up. A look of disbelief flashed across her eyes as she scanned my stall, as if searching for something unusual. A man standing nearby expressed his astonishment. Could it be that there really is such a thing as a destined person in this world? Is this coin not faulty? Here, young lady, take my coin and try it. She didn't refuse. This time, without her previous caution, she casually tossed the coin 3 times, and the result was still 3 heads up. The surrounding crowd suddenly erupted, murmurs of admiration echoing endlessly. "That's incredible," someone whispered. "This young woman is so young, yet she seems to possess extraordinary abilities." I observed her leisurely before speaking. "Congratulations, destined one. Now quietly recite your birth date, name, and the question you hold in your heart. Heaven will naturally give you the answer." Hearing this, she picked up the fortune stick container and began to shake it. Flick, a small sound, and a fortune slip fell to the ground. The woman picked it up and handed it to me, saying, "Master, please interpret it for me." I didn't even bother to look up. "Don't just see the slip and assume I'll interpret it for you." A hint of displeasure crossed her face, but she decisively scanned the payment code and handed me the slip. I took it, glanced at it, and then explained seriously. "Slip number 104. Unexpected joy seeks the twilight. Imperial decree summons the child to the evening court. From now on, all will be glorious and honorable. Awaits the blessings bestowed by heaven's light." Based on the content of the slip, this is a most auspicious fortune, promising you a future full of glory and wealth. The girl, looking quite smug, asked, "So, can you explain in more detail what this slip means?" I slightly curved my lips, a smile playing on them. "You are most likely seeking a romantic connection. This slip indicates that your relationships will be harmonious, and the man you marry will be immensely famous and incredibly wealthy." A look of clear satisfaction appeared on her face. I continued, "But there is one condition." She was slightly stunned, quickly asking, "What condition?" My tone suddenly changed. "The condition is that you must survive this month. As you are now, I fear that in just a few days you will die tragically in your own home. You may not even get to enjoy that happy destiny." I placed the fortune slip back into her hand. "Don't believe me? See for yourself." She lowered her head and froze in horror as drops of dark red liquid began to seep from the fortune slip, soaking both her hands. Without even raising it to her nose, she could smell the pungent, metallic scent of blood. Overcome with terror, she screamed and violently threw the slip to the ground. Some people around her felt indignant, scolding loudly. "What kind of talk is that? She drew a good slip and you deliberately curse her. Isn't that too malicious? Indeed, how heartless." "That's right, young lady, don't be afraid, we'll call the police to arrest her. What kind of person has such a venomous tongue?" The woman's Yao Tingting expression turned incredibly sour, but as this was the sacred ground of a Buddhist temple, she suppressed her anger, refraining from cursing. She glared at me, full of resentment, her attitude far from friendly. Nonsense. What if I don't die this month? If I don't encounter misfortune, if I don't die as you say, do you dare to kneel and apologize to me? Her eyes were bloodshot, her face fierce like a hungry demon, as if she wanted to devour me whole. Only I knew there was a stark difference between this girl and her luxurious exterior. Those hands, no matter how carefully concealed, couldn't hide the thick calluses, the marks of years of hard labor, ill-fitting with her glamorous appearance. I calmly packed up my belongings, saying, "No need to wait until next month. Within 10 days, you will encounter a calamity of blood. If, after those 10 days, you don't seek me for salvation, consider yourself the winner. If you don't die, I will compensate you 1,000-fold for the divination fee, and kneeling to apologize will be no problem." Those around me had no idea that I was born with the power of spiritual words. What I had said would undoubtedly come true. Because when a spirit slip bleeds, someone must die. I took the opportunity to start promoting to the surrounding crowd. This is the official WeChat account of our Daoist temple. Those who need it, scan the code. I am always ready. If you need fortune-telling, divination, or ritual services, you can come to us. Currently, there's even a buy one get one free promotion for soul deliverance rituals. I will live stream in 10 days. Anyone interested can watch. If this girl doesn't suffer any misfortune as I've foretold within the next 10 days, I will personally pay the compensation and kneel to apologize in front of everyone. My serious and clear words indeed attracted many people around me to pull out their phones, scan the code, and follow. Even the two who had just scolded me did the same. Even the woman with the LV bag added me as a friend, noting her name as Yao Tingting. However, the temple abbot had been observing me for a long time and finally couldn't stand it anymore. He took a large loudspeaker, hung it on a nearby branch, and switched it on, causing a continuous broadcast to blare out. Oppose feudal superstition, beware of scams, no fortune-telling allowed in the temple. Oppose feudal superstition, beware of scams, no fortune-telling allowed in the temple. After completing my business and achieving my goal, I prepared to pack up and return to the Daoist temple. Just as I was leaving, my phone vibrated, displaying a message. "Yao Tingting, if nothing happens in the next 10 days, I will definitely send someone to smash your dilapidated Daoist temple." I didn't reply directly. I just sent back the location of the Daoist temple, then turned off my phone and left. On the way back to the Daoist temple, I noticed a small golden ferret silently following me. It kept its distance, neither too close nor too far. I pretended not to see it and continued walking. As I neared Master Song's Daoist temple, the ferret suddenly darted into the bushes and vanished without a trace. When I returned, my senior brother greeted me warmly. "King, where have you been? Look at you, drenched in sweat. Grandma will be so worried if she sees you." I took a sip of water and replied, "I just set up a fortune-telling stall out there. Where's Master Song? Hasn't he returned yet?" My senior brother replied, "The temple master left early this morning. He's preparing for the 3 realms blessing ritual this afternoon to pray for people." I calculated the time and realized I was just in time. So I took out my tools and set up another stall right in front of the Daoist temple gates. It was still the familiar golden cloth spread on the ground with the usual inscription. Destined individuals may draw a slip, 100 yuan per draw. If incorrect, 1,000-fold refund. My senior brother scratched his head in confusion. "King, what are you doing? Trying to earn extra income? You know, for averting misfortune and bringing good fortune, you don't even need fortune slips. Wouldn't a single word from you be enough?" I waved my hand, smiling. "Senior brother, some procedures still need to follow the proper steps." As it was home ground, my fortune-telling stall immediately attracted a large crowd eager to try drawing a slip, but they flipped coins repeatedly, and forget 3 heads up, they couldn't even get one. Very soon after, the person I was waiting for finally appeared. After observing for a while, the young man hesitated, then decided to leave. I called out to stop him. "Friend, why not give it a try? So many people couldn't do it. Who knows, you might be the destined one." He laughed self-deprecatingly. "I'm busy. Besides, so many people couldn't do it, how could it be me?" Those around us wouldn't let go of this fun opportunity and immediately joined in. "Go on, try. If she's wrong, she'll compensate 1,000-fold. That's 100,000 yuan. You might not even earn that much in a year of hard work." Yeah, I also find it a bit strange. More than a dozen people tried and couldn't even get one head. Encouraged by the crowd, the young man Gao Xia finally picked up a coin from the ground. After carefully checking that there were no issues, he began to toss it. Under everyone's expectant gaze, all 3 tosses landed heads up. Not stopping there, he continued to toss it a 4th, then a 5th time, and the result was still heads up. I smiled. "See, I told you you are the fated one." I handed him the fortune stick container and said, "Close your eyes and silently recite your birth date, full name, and the question you wish to ask. Remember, only 1 question per draw." My expression was so serious that he couldn't help but nod in agreement, took the container, closed his eyes, and began to shake it. Flick! A fortune stick fell out of the container and rolled on the ground. I picked it up, glanced at it, and read aloud. Slip number 75. Like embracing a lake to cross a high mountain, fear chills the heart to its core. Guard yourself carefully, and peace will be yours for life. Friend, this is an inauspicious slip. I looked at the briefcase he held in his hand and sighed softly. What you are hoping for will only bring you hardship and suffering. If you truly do it, no one will blame you. But you need to think carefully. If you take one wrong step, the consequences will be irreversible. He stood there silently, looking lost, unsure what to do. Seeing his hesitation, I handed him a gold-embossed business card. "If there's anything you can't resolve, come find me." Someone next to us interjected, "Daoist Priestess, your interpretation of this slip isn't very clear. Are you two playing some kind of mysterious game? Is this guy not someone you hired to put on a show?" Hearing this, his body stiffened, but his eyes showed that he understood my meaning clearly. Clasping his briefcase tightly, he hastily left, as if fleeing the crowd. I watched him go, muttering softly, struggling through countless dangers and obstacles, water carving through mud over high mountains, hoping for great deeds in a foreign land. 1,000 miles, still in turmoil, retreat offers a path to life, advance only brings hardship. This tribulation is truly a great one. Those around me didn't understand what I was saying. Seeing nothing more of interest, they shook their heads and gradually dispersed. Amidst the thinning crowd, I still watched his retreating figure. His entire being was enveloped by a faint, dark gray aura, occasionally revealing a touch of ominous red. If nothing unexpected happened, I feared that in a few days he would choose to commit suicide and might even take other lives with him. When everyone had left, a sharp claw unexpectedly tugged at my trouser leg. I bent down and met a pair of bright green eyes. The small creature blinked at me mischievously. Before I could react, it quickly leaped onto my shoulder. Clinging to my clothes, it made my shoulder heavy. Then I felt my mind become hazy, like a sleepwalker, and I followed the retreating figure of the man who had just drawn a slip. Finally, I saw him enter a hospital. It continued to control me, forcing me to follow the man all the way into a patient's room. When I realized we had arrived, I stopped pretending. With just a reach of my hand, I easily snatched it down. "Little one, daring to provoke the Grand Duke Jupiter, are we? Last night I promised you I would save someone. Isn't this going a bit too far?" Seeing me easily break its illusion spell, its entire body trembled like leaves falling in the wind. Finally, it began to show fear, hastily begging for mercy. "Great one, please spare me. This humble one was truly just too anxious to save someone." I lifted it by the scruff of its neck, sighing helplessly. "Since we're already here, come with me and take a look." Before I could finish, a desperate shout from the patient's room echoed out. "What do you want me to do? Are you trying to force me to my death? If I die, we'll both die." My heart sank. Something bad has happened. Still holding the golden ferret tightly, I rushed into the patient's room. Looking directly at the agitated man, I yelled, "Gao Xia, release your hands, calm down." "This is your biological father." Gao Xia felt his hands suddenly clamped by an invisible force, unable to move. The golden ferret in my hand widened its sparkling eyes, filled with admiration. "Is this the power of the spiritual word technique? How many lifetimes must one cultivate to reach such a state?" Gao Xia looked up at me, his clouded eyes filled with bloodshot streaks and extreme suffering. From him, I could clearly feel intense torment and internal struggle. I gently used both hands to pry his hands away from the neck of the elderly man lying on the bed. Gao Xia finally regained consciousness, and though an adult man, he slumped to the floor, burying his head and sobbing uncontrollably. At this moment, the elderly man took a deep breath after being freed from suffocation, then began to cough violently. He had been just moments away from being choked to death on that bed by his own son. Cough, cough, cough. I quickly pressed the emergency bell at the head of the bed. Nurses rushed in, saw the elderly man's heart rate and blood pressure soaring, and quickly called for more staff and a doctor. After thorough examination, his condition was temporarily out of danger. Seeing Gao Xia still slumped on the floor, they shook their heads and left. No one mentioned calling the police. Before leaving, a nurse turned back and advised, "Gao Xia, please try to persuade your father. You've worked so hard to get this money, and the success rate of the surgery is very high. If there's a chance for treatment, don't give up." I glanced at the elderly man on the bed. His lifespan was indeed not long. No wonder he'd rather die than use this money of questionable origin. Sadly, his fate was so unfortunate. Even if he survived this crisis, he would only live for another 4 or 5 years. With such a large sum of money being spent, I wondered if this was the right decision or merely pointless. Gao Xia gripped the bag tightly, then threw it violently to the ground, stacks of money scattered everywhere. He seemed lost, mumbling in despair. "Father, why are you so stubborn? What if I say I just found this money? It can save your life. I beg you, father, please use it. Don't you want to see your son live without a father?" The elderly man on the bed, nearly 70 years old, pressed his lips into a thin line. He quietly replied, "Since childhood, I've taught you that ill-gotten gains cannot be accepted. If you force me to use this money, it's no different from choking me to death just now. If I die and meet our ancestors, I won't say you were an unfilial son, but I understand my own health better than anyone. Even if I get through this, I won't live many more years." "Why are you so persistent and uncomprehending?" Gao Xia choked up, his eyes filled with pain. "Even if you only live one more day, I will still treat you. With a chance to be cured but not taking it, do you want me to regret it my whole life?" The father and son argued in helplessness, the atmosphere becoming oppressively suffocating. Unable to endure it any longer, I stepped forward and pulled Gao Xia out of the patient's room. "Gao Xia, let's go outside. I need to ask you a few things." In the corridor, he leaned against the wall and lit a cigarette, completely disregarding the hospital rules, puffing away as if trying to dispel the heavy burden in his heart. His voice was hoarse, tinged with a bitter laugh. "I know, this is ill-gotten money, and for anyone, it's a significant sum. But do you understand? If I don't use this money, my father will die. Ha, I won't hide it from you, just now I really wanted to kill him. How can he be so stubborn? It'd be better if we both just went together and got it over with. I'm so useless. I've done everything I could. I've borrowed everywhere I could, but it's still not enough. Master, look at me." Gao Xia opened his palm, revealing 2 fingers significantly shorter than the others. A quick glance revealed they were fingers that had been severed by machinery and then reattached. My fingers were cut off by a press machine at the factory while I was working. The boss wouldn't let me work anymore, just threw 2,000 yuan at me and sent me home. But my father, why does he only think about living peacefully and not about how I feel? He raised me for over 20 years, yet he's heartless enough to let me watch him die with my own eyes. His voice choked, tears flowing incessantly. I waited in silence until he had cried enough before speaking. "Done crying? I can lend you the money for your father's treatment. You can decide the interest and pay back the principal within 5 years. Now come with me to return the 100,000 yuan in your bag to where it came from, then take me to your factory boss. I'll make sure he pays you back in full, capital, and interest." He looked bewildered. "Huh, master, what kind of spell are you going to cast?" I chuckled. "Spell, not magic spells, but legal spells. The labor law, I will demand the money for you. If he doesn't pay, we'll sue him in the labor arbitration court." I looked at my watch, urging him, "Let's go quickly. After returning the money, we can proceed. If we delay any longer, it might be too late." Gao Xia and I went to the cashier to pay a deposit of 200,000 yuan for his father's medical expenses. In truth, his father had already spent hundreds of thousands on his condition, only lacking the money for this final surgery. But Gao Xia truly didn't have a single cent left. He had tried everything, appealing for aid, borrowing money, selling his house, seeking help from the media, all to no avail. Even his ex-girlfriend, after giving him 30,000 yuan, had blocked all contact and vanished without a trace. Gao Xia recounted that at his absolute lowest, with no other options, he had considered every possible method, even the most improbable. Hearing a patient in the next room say that praying at Master Song's Daoist temple was very effective, he went there with his last hope. Upon arrival, the bustling scene at the Daoist temple only made him feel more frustrated. In his distraught state, a gentle female voice suddenly echoed in his mind, as if guiding him forward. He followed that feeling until he stopped in front of a small, nearby shrine. Immediately, his eyes caught sight of a bulging backpack lying in the bushes. The surroundings were deserted, not a soul in sight, as if compelled by an invisible force. He picked up the backpack and opened it. Inside were stacks of deep red money, 100,000 yuan, no more, no less. This amount was not only enough to cover his father's medical expenses, but also his recovery process. After that, his heart pounded like a drum, both excited and confused. On his way back, he coincidentally met me, setting up my fortune-telling stall. His eagerness suddenly halved. When he returned to the hospital, his father learned that the money was found money and adamantly refused to use it, preferring death over accepting it. That was the moment his psychological state completely collapsed. He had once thought this was salvation from heaven, that his ancestors had opened their eyes and shown him a path to life. But now, that path was blocked by his own father. In despair, just as he was about to end everything with his father, I appeared. After the hospital fees were paid, Gao Xia's spirits gradually calmed. Suddenly, as if remembering something, he asked, "Master, how did you know my name is Gao Xia, and that I picked up that money?" I smiled. "I cannot reveal that, but you and your father have a benefactor in your destiny, and that person came to me for help." He was half believing, half doubting. "Master, who is this benefactor you speak of?" I held up the small golden ferret, the benefactor of their family, and smiled meaningfully. "You will know later. Do you remember where you found the money?" Gao Xia paused for a moment, then replied, "Near your Daoist temple, next to a small shrine. I just happened to be passing by then. If you asked me to go back and find it, it might take me a while to remember." Right then, the small ferret in my hand wiggled and squirmed, as if signaling. It was subtly letting me know it knew the way. Gao Xia glanced at it a few times and chuckled, his mood considerably lighter. "Master, your pet is truly unique." I placed the small ferret on the ground, and it quickly scurried off, leading the way. Gao Xia and I followed. After walking a distance from the hospital, I casually asked, "Gao Xia, have you ever wondered why your father is over 70, yet you are only 26? I led Gao Xia to return the money to the family who lost it. Only when we arrived did he realize that family was also in distress due to illness. It turned out that the 100,000 yuan was painstakingly saved by a mother to pay for her daughter's treatment. But the girl's grandmother secretly stole it. The grandmother recounted that in a dream, someone told her that if she offered this money, she would be blessed with a healthy, plump grandson. Hearing this, she secretly took the money out, intending to offer it at a small shrine. But before she could reach it, she dropped the money. Not daring to confess to stealing it, she returned and blamed her daughter-in-law for not being careful. When Gao Xia and I arrived, the girl's entire family was in chaos. The mother was determined to take her child, preparing for the whole family to drink poison and end it all. Gao Xia rushed forward, embracing them tightly, stopping them just in time. After returning the money, the girl's mother was so moved she almost knelt to thank him. Immediately, the girl's husband sent the grandmother back to her hometown, forcing her to pack up and return to the countryside. He knelt and vowed to his wife that he would never associate with his own mother again, except for her funeral. As we left their house, I noticed large beads of sweat on Gao Xia's forehead. He glanced at me, his expression both rigid and awkward. While at the girl's house, I had tried to sense who the grandmother had been in contact with. After some investigation, I understood the whole story. It turned out the mastermind behind everything was him. Afterwards, Gao Xia's father's health stabilized a little. I then took him to his former boss's house to demand compensation. Mr. Wang, the boss, lived in a luxurious 3-story villa with a small garden in front. It was clear he lived a very affluent life. The person who opened the door for us was none other than the woman who had drawn the fortune slip a few days prior, Yao Tingting. She looked at me, then at Gao Xia, her expression far from friendly. "So, that day's ridiculous fortune teller was all a setup by you people. Didn't you curse me? Let me tell you, yesterday afternoon my husband and I registered our marriage. You just wait to kneel and apologize to me." "Oh, my husband, Mr. Wang, isn't here, so just go and don't come back." "Haven't I already compensated him 2,000 yuan? Don't be so greedy." Gao Xia's face turned red, ready to argue, but I quickly raised my hand to stop him. "Don't get angry." I looked at Yao Tingting, calmly saying, "Your boyfriend must have promised to hold a wedding for you, and your wedding will take place on the 14th of next month, correct?" She smirked confidently. "You tried to scare me that day, but now half of Shenzhen City knows. Do I need you to remind me?" She raised her hand, showing off a large 5-carat diamond wedding ring, a luxury item worth about 200,000 yuan. For the poor, that money could save a life, but for the wealthy, it was just a glittering piece of jewelry. Though I didn't want to compare, life-saving money should absolutely not be turned into ostentatious luxury. I sighed. I gave you my contact information. Remember to keep it safe. Now, Gao Xia and I will leave. I'll wait for you to come to me. Yao Tingting's face darkened, her voice full of anger. You jinx, get out. If you don't leave, I'll call the police. Oh, and 10 days from now, when you livestream, I'll definitely watch. Remember to kneel in front of everyone, apologize, and compensate me then. Gao Xia was about to say something on my behalf, but I pulled him away. No need to say much, today was just to make her realize. Within 3 days, she will definitely encounter a great calamity. She probably won't be in the mood to watch the livestream. Yao Tingting slammed the door shut, the resounding thud as if it wanted to hit me directly. Gao Xia looked at me, his face filled with fear. Master, did you just curse her? I put a hand to my forehead, sighing helplessly. What are you thinking? I didn't curse anyone. I explained. She once came to me for a fortune slip, just like you. Even though she drew a most auspicious slip for her romantic life, I clearly saw an aura of bloodshed covering her face. Someone is clearly plotting against her life. It's likely she's involved in a love-related disaster. I glanced at him. If I really wanted to curse, I wouldn't need to step out of the Daoist temple. Why do you think I dragged you around like this? I sincerely want to save her. Gao Xia scratched his head, confused. She has such a bad attitude, and yet Master still wants to save her. I turned to look at the luxurious villa in front of us. For ordinary people, this house, perhaps even a bathroom in it, would be unaffordable in a lifetime. When things are easily obtained, how many truly try to cherish them? You don't understand. I deliberately angered her. Otherwise, she would only be half believing. Now she thinks I'm a fraud, but when the disaster truly strikes, she will clearly feel remorse for what she has done. Her situation may seem unrelated to you, but it is actually closely intertwined. If I want to save you, I must save her too. You two can only live if you live together, otherwise, you can only die together. My words were so heavy that Gao Xia's face instantly turned pale. I continued to explain. That 100,000 yuan, once it passed through the small shrine, it became life-buying money. Since you held that money, don't think you can easily escape. Regardless of whether you spend it or not, if the person who gave the money doesn't achieve what they desire, they will certainly not let it rest. Humans are like that. When they have nothing, they don't fear death. But now that his father's illness has hope of treatment, now that compensation can potentially be recovered, he begins to fear. The next morning before dawn, my phone vibrated violently. Opening my eyes, I reached for it. The screen showed 112 missed calls, vibrating until the battery ran dry. I plugged it in, then unhurriedly called back. The other end quickly picked up, a trembling voice coming through. Please, Master, have mercy on me. It's my fault my mouth was blind, my eyes were blind, I couldn't see people clearly. Someone in red wants to kill me. I took a sip of overnight tea to soothe my throat and replied, I didn't send anyone. Someone wants to kill you. I told you, but you didn't believe me. You only drew a 100 yuan fortune slip. What reason do I have to help you to this extent? On the other end, the crackle of the phone signal mixed with sobs. I was wrong, Master. Please save me. I chuckled faintly. I offered you an opportunity and you didn't take it. Now you want me to save you. What reason do I have to be so generous? With that, I hung up, began to pack my belongings, and prepared to go save her. In truth, I only wanted to appease the vile entity clinging to her a little. If I had gone straight there from the beginning, I feared it would have already killed Yao Tingting. Now, a cat-and-mouse game was unfolding. Things were progressing slowly, steadily. Wasn't this more interesting for him? This time I took the fortune stick container, muttering, I ask, can Yao Tingting escape this calamity? I picked up a fallen stick from the ground and read it. Advise not to rely on others. Like a crane flying far, a hidden arrow shoots forth. If one goes to the green grass to gather firewood, a poisonous snake lurks, danger is near. The meaning of the slip was clear. It advised me not to interfere in this matter. If I were reckless, I too could face a backlash. In short, the problem lay with Yao Tingting herself. Her virtue was lacking, which was why she found herself in this predicament. I slung my bag over my shoulder. Inside were a few yellow talismans and some paper money, then called a taxi. The sky today was overcast, the light pale as if obscured. One had to admit, this was truly an ideal day for murder and arson. He had chosen his moment perfectly. The main gate of the villa was unlocked, and Yao Tingting was wandering around the courtyard like someone lost. unable to find her way out. It was simple. She was currently like a headless fly, completely unable to perceive the world around her. She had been blinded by a ghost. Inside the house, a woman in red sat leisurely on the sofa, a teacup in her hand, her posture incredibly elegant. When I entered, she didn't bow as other spirits would. Her attitude was calm, even somewhat arrogant. After all, this was a high-level vengeful spirit. A bit of temperament was understandable. I asked Cao Yan, "Must you make her die here to resolve the hatred between you two?" She glanced at me. "Do you wish to interfere with our karma? I know the underworld has its own rules. By law, you shouldn't intervene." I watched Yao Tingting running around in a panic, occasionally screaming. Because she is still a living person. As long as she is alive, I cannot stand by and do nothing. Cao Yan shed 2 streams of bloody tears, her voice full of sorrow. "She is a living person, so you protect her. But me, when I was alive, who protected me?" I paused for a moment, then replied, "You are not like her. You committed suicide, and suicide is a grave sin. As for Yao Tingting, she wants to live." Cao Yan's expression turned fierce. "She wants to live? Does she deserve to live? That year, my son had a brain tumor." I called Mr. Wang, telling him to come see our son one last time. And what did this woman say? She said Mr. Wang was busy and told my son and me not to bother him anymore. That was asterisk his son. My son was only 16 at the time, struggling to hold onto his last breath, waiting for his father for 3 days. Until he passed away, he never got to see his father one last time. Do you say I shouldn't hate? Can you tell me I can't hate? I hate. Cao Yan's soul body began to fluctuate, becoming unstable, as if about to explode. Her fury strongly affected Yao Tingting, causing her to continuously scream in panic. I frowned, turned to Yao Tingting, and commanded, "Silence." Immediately, she opened her mouth wide but couldn't produce any sound. Finally, the world around us returned to quiet. I knew that besides her son, she still couldn't let go of another person in her heart. "If you agree to spare Yao Tingting, I can let you see that person again." After I finished speaking, Cao Yan slowly calmed down and then began to sob uncontrollably. She had no tears, only streams of dark red blood seeping through her fingers, dripping onto the ground. She stared at me, her eyes full of venom. "Don't lie to me. If you dare to deceive me, I don't care who you are. I'll risk everything to make both of us vanish into thin air." I replied coldly, "With your meager cultivation, you'd best not dream. Even if you committed suicide 1,000 more times, you wouldn't be qualified to confront me. I pity you, which is why I want to help." I took out my phone. Just then a call came in. "Master, I'm almost at the villa. Where are you?" It was Gao Xia calling. I opened the villa door, waving him in. "Here." Gao Xia stepped inside and, seeing Yao Tingting wandering around like a lost soul, took a sharp intake of breath. "Master, what's wrong with her? Has she gone mad? Call the police quickly." I waved my hand, calmly saying, "Nothing serious, she's just being haunted by the vengeful spirit in this house." Hearing this, Gao Xia's legs went weak and he almost knelt on the floor. "Then let her be mad, that's better." Cao Yan saw Gao Xia appear, her expression suddenly becoming calm, her lips moving slightly, her voice trembling as if in disbelief. "Is that Gao Xia?" I nodded. "Indeed." She raised her hand, seemingly wanting to touch Gao Xia's face, but he only felt a cold gust of wind blow past, making him instinctively recoil. Cao Yan slowly withdrew her hand. I looked at her, gently asking, "Can you now tell me about the small shrine? Your son has already been reincarnated, but you are still stuck here." Cao Yan sat down opposite me and began to recount her memories. "That year, I was a student. That's when I met Mr. Wang. He sweet-talked and deceived me, taking advantage of my body. I wanted to marry him, but my parents opposed me marrying someone far away, so I left home to follow him. We went to America. At first, our relationship was fine, but about 7 to 8 months after I became pregnant, everything changed. He promised me he would never betray me my whole life, but the more he was exposed to American culture, the more he looked down on me. Then I returned to China with him, and we started a business from scratch together. He succeeded, but at that very moment, our son was diagnosed with a brain tumor. When I called him, the one who answered the phone was Yao Tingting. At that moment, I completely collapsed. I stayed at the hospital with my son, waiting for that Mr. Wang for 3 days. But as you know, I took sleeping pills to commit suicide. My soul couldn't enter the underworld. I couldn't even become a normal wandering spirit. That's when I learned that Mr. Wang himself had hired someone to build that small shrine to imprison me. He used my soul as a ritual sacrifice, praying for his business to prosper and his descendants to thrive. Gao Xia was both curious and frightened. "Master, who are you talking to? Are there really ghosts?" I chuckled faintly. Do you want to see? This ghost in Yao Tingting's house is not just a vengeful spirit, but also has a deep connection to you. Gao Xia looked confused. Connected to me? I want to see, but she doesn't look scary, does she? I glanced at Cao Yan. She had wiped away the bloody tears from her face and now looked like a normal girl, only with a pale complexion. I told Gao Xia, you decide. If you want to see, I can temporarily open your spiritual eyes for you. In the end, Gao Xia's curiosity overcame his fear. All right. I took out a small bottle of Cao's tears, used to open his spiritual eyes. As soon as he saw Cao Yan, he froze. At this moment, Cao Yan looked just like an ordinary girl, her face pale, nothing scary. But the way she looked at Gao Xia held a completely different feeling. She slowly reached out to touch his face, but her hand passed through, unable to make contact. When I left home, you were just over a year old. Now you've grown so tall. I turned to Gao Xia. Do you remember that day I asked why your father was over 70, yet you were only 26? Gao Xia nodded. I remember. That day after I asked, you were also curious about the answer. But when we returned to the hospital, your father just sighed and didn't say anything more. I pointed to Cao Yan. This is your elder sister, Cao Yan. The small shrine where you found the 100,000 yuan is where her body is buried. And that money was also her way of making an appearance. Gao Xia was stunned. You mean the person who wants to kill Yao Tingting is my sister? Cao Yan looked a little flustered. What happened between me and Yao Tingting has nothing to do with you, and since you took that money, remember to use it to treat father. Gao Xia clenched his fists, his voice full of pain. Father won't use that money because it's ill-gotten. Don't you know? That money almost destroyed another family. He choked up, almost shouting, if I selfishly used that money and it harmed so many lives, I would never forgive myself. Cao Yan retorted coldly, that's because the girl's grandmother was too stubborn. How does that involve you or me? I sighed, looking at Gao Xia. Ghosts no longer clearly distinguish between good and evil like humans do. When she was alive, perhaps she wouldn't have done such a thing. But after death, you cannot expect her to have moral consciousness anymore. Now everything she does is based on her own obsession. Gao Xia seemed to awaken from a dream. If you are truly my sister, why have I never met you all these years, and why has father never mentioned you? Cao Yan sighed. That was my fault. I didn't listen to father. I chose the wrong beast of a man. She turned her cold gaze towards Yao Tingting. This woman destroyed my family, causing my son to die with resentment and pain. I cannot swallow this anger. At this moment, Yao Tingting was more alert and seeing me acted as if she had found a savior. She clung to my legs, crying and begging, Master, save me. There's a ghost. A ghost really wants to kill me. Mr. Wang has been killed by her. I closed my eyes, concentrating my senses. Indeed, on the bed beside us, Mr. Wang no longer had any breath of life. Even his soul was no longer in the mortal realm. I opened my eyes wide, looking directly at Cao Yan. Did you kill him? Cao Yan chuckled, her laughter sharp as a blade cutting through the air. Yes, I did. Didn't he promise me we would live and die together? My son and I are both dead. What right does he have to continue living? I felt a surge of emotion. Killing is a grave sin, do you know that? If you only agreed to return to being a wandering spirit for a few years, I could perform a ritual to help your soul move on and reincarnate. But now, you're mad. Cao Yan smiled gently, her eyes calm as if all resentment had dissipated. Thank you, Great One, but I am tired. This mortal world is too full of suffering. I do not wish to return. Before I could react, her soul body began to fade. This isn't good. This is a sign that her soul is about to be shattered and scattered. I shouted loudly, do not vanish. Remembering the power of my spiritual words, Cao Yan's soul body was temporarily fixed. I spoke in a solemn voice, as if passing judgment. Mortal woman Cao Yan, while alive, you were unfilial to your parents, causing your mother to die of grief. After death, you used your spirit body to harm the lives of the living. Therefore, you are hereby sentenced to suffer punishment in the Knife Mountain Hell for 100 years, after which you may enter reincarnation. As soon as the judgment was delivered, the laws of heaven and earth immediately took effect. Cao Yan's soul body became solid and substantial again. She sighed softly, her eyes showing a hint of resignation. Great One, why go through such trouble? I didn't kill her, not because I didn't want to, but heaven's justice is clear. Just wait and see. Not long after, Cao Yan's soul body completely vanished from the mortal world. In the villa, only I, Gao Xia, and Yao Tingting remained. I glanced at Yao Tingting, my voice flat. It seems you are quite lucky. You received your marriage certificate yesterday, and today you've lost your husband. Yao Tingting's face turned beet red, both angry and flustered, wanting to retort but finding no reason. Partly because she didn't dare, partly because she knew she had no logical ground. I sighed, "Call the police. This is a murder case, you must call the police immediately." Yao Tingting suddenly remembered, hastily shouting, "I can't call the police. If I do, how will I explain this now?" I shrugged, concurring, "Then you can sleep with the corpse. Don't call the police, wait until the 7th day, and he will come back to take you down below to live with him. A husband and wife's deep love, truly beautiful. However, down there he already has a wife and children, you would only be considered a latecomer." Hearing this, Yao Tingting trembled and pulled out her phone. "I'll call the police, I'll call right now." Very quickly, the police and forensic experts arrived at the scene. According to the examination results, her husband died of sudden cardiac arrest. However, at that time, Yao Tingting was blinded by the ghost, so she couldn't detect and treat him in time. Even so, the police didn't believe in ghosts. Based on surveillance camera footage, they saw her husband continuously calling for help, while she walked around the living room, occasionally screaming loudly and constantly calling on her phone. The police initially suspected Yao Tingting of suffering from a mental illness. After Gao Xia and I completed our cooperation with the police investigation, we returned. During the live stream, I recounted the story. That's roughly how it went. Afterwards, Yao Tingting inherited all of Mr. Wang's assets but was diagnosed with a mental illness and required long-term supervised treatment. She sold Mr. Wang's company and planned to legally split half the money with Gao Xia. This money was intended for Gao Xia to care for his father in his final years, as it was originally joint property between his elder sister, Cao Yan, and Mr. Wang. Viewers in the livestream began to ask questions. "A little alcohol, but host, you haven't talked about the golden ferret. What happened to it?" I smiled and replied, "Actually, everything was orchestrated by that golden ferret." "Dao likes candy, what do you mean?" "Cute chubby bear, don't be vague, tell us, I want to hear it, I can't stand the suspense." I took a sip of tea, slowly saying, "This golden ferret appeared to repay a kindness." "Little bunny stays up, you've already told this part." "Cute chubby bear, don't repeat yourself, continue the story." I continued, but the one it wanted to repay its kindness to from beginning to end was not Gao Xia. It was Yao Tingting. Yao Tingting grew up in the countryside. Her mother gave birth to 3 daughters, then had 4 miscarriages before finally giving birth to a son, which left her health severely depleted. Therefore, from a young age, all the heavy chores in the family fell on Yao Tingting's shoulders. When she was 10, while picking mushrooms on the mountain, she found a golden ferret caught in an animal trap. Feeling pity, she rescued it and released it. Over 10 years later, that ferret had cultivated itself into a spirit. When it learned that its former benefactor had committed a serious mistake and karmic retribution was about to strike, it came to me, pretending it wanted to repay kindness to Gao Xia. But in reality, its goal was always to save Yao Tingting. The 100,000 yuan Gao Xia found was also its trick. It enchanted the girl's grandmother to take the money up the mountain. But she hadn't gone far before the money was lost. Immediately after, it arranged for someone to tell Gao Xia to go to the Daoist temple to pray so he would find that money. Then it led me to the hospital to save Gao Xia's father. It was thanks to that life-saving grace that Cao Yan finally changed her mind, let go of her hatred, and spared Yao Tingting. The live stream was filled with exclamation marks from viewers. "This ferret is truly cunning. It has 100 tricks up its sleeve." I concluded. That's all for today's story. I'll see you all next time if fate allows. In the room, the golden ferret lay on its back on the floor, its 4 legs tied. Its sparkling eyes looked up at Master Song and me, full of pitifulness. Master Song stroked the ferret, softly saying, "Look closely, this one is quite cute. How about keeping it as a pet for you?" I glanced at the ferret, its face covered in bruises from the beating. Daring to scheme against me? If I don't teach it a lesson, it won't do. Just let it live with my grandma, be a companion for her in her loneliness. Master Song smiled. "That's a good idea." He waved his hand, and in an instant, the ferret on the floor transformed into a small, pale yellow dog. The dog looked up at me, barking ingratiatingly. Therefore, people should not look down on any living creature. All things have spirituality. One must understand. Do not fail to do good, however small, nor commit evil, however small. For all you know, sometimes it's the little things you overlook that can save your life or take it away.